Hello and welcome back to the Project Management Fundamental course. In this module, we will continue with looking at organizational structure and cultures and what that means when you're looking at project management role or if you want to become a project manager. So when you talk about organizational structure, you're actually looking at how, you know, you define the activities and how those activities such as how you allocate tasks when you execute project, how you also coordinate and supervise those tasks, you know, towards achieving organizational goals. So, which means an organization structures itself in a way that enables it to achieve the goal, the vision that it has as an organization, and it will take into account all the activities that it wants to do and organize it and direct it in a way that it can achieve its goal. So which simply means the way an organization is structured affects how actions are taken in that organization. And this is the foundation on which there are procedures, policies, rules, and even routines and things that are done there goes. And there are types of organizational structures. For example, we have two extremes. One is what we call the functional, and the other extreme is what we call the projectized. And in between, there are three other ones, which can go from what we call a weak matrix to a strong matrix. So a matrix is simply a mix of both functional and projectized structure. And if it is a weak matrix, that means it is more towards a functional but not fully functional type of structure. And if it's a strong matrix, then it is more towards projectized type of structure. And if it is balanced, that means it's a good mix of both. And what we want to look at is what does it mean for project management or project managers? So the project managers here, their authority and autonomy, which means the level of power and influence they have, increases as you go from a functional to a projectized structure. So what is actually a functional structure? A functional structure is one where you, for example, if you're a project manager, you manage projects, but there are also what we call line managers or people managers or maybe directors in some company. It depends on what you call it. And you report to those directors. So they are in charge of the resources and controls a lot of things. And while you as a project manager has less control of things like people or money. And in a projectized organization, it's mainly based on project. So they structure it in a project way that you as a project manager controls the project, you have the budget, you have the resources and the people, and you can choose to do whatever you want with them. So if you compare all that in terms of when you look at the characteristics and, compared to organizational structure. So if you look at a functional type, you see that for project manager authority, there's little to no authority, and in a projectized version, there's a high authority. And also resource availability is the same way, where a project manager in a functional organization has little or no resources and to almost high or almost everything in a projectized organization. And anything in between is a mix, and that depends on the company or the organization. So in terms of level of controlling the money or the budget, the role as a project manager, whether it's part-time, based on in a functional organization where it could be based on a small project and you're allowed to go after it's done, or you're in a projectized organization where you're fully in charge and you're really occupied with all the work and you're also managing the people. And also your administrative staff in a functional structure is really limited compared to projectized structure in that sense. So, and when you also look at this in a way, you see that basically the hierarchy in functional project management organization, such that functional managers or line managers or directors or department managers are the ones who really have everything, and every other thing falls under them. While in the projectized structure, there could be mainly actually project managers are the ones who are fully in charge. They manage both people and resources fully, and do not report or need to go to any line manager. Of course, there's always the CEO at the top or the executive who have to make sure that whether it's projectized or functional or something in between, you always check what is the organizational policies and things as a project manager that you need to deal with. So these are some of the things you need to look at. So in some companies, when you hear line management or people management, that's more or less something more functional. And project management is simply dealing with projects and execution using people and other resources and things. And basically, if you look at an organization, there's also the culture. And culture is simply a collection of values. So when we talk of organizational cultures, we look at what are the values, expectations and practices, things that guide and inform how people do things in a company. You can also think of it as a collection of traits or the way people, behave or do things. So when you go to different organizations, they behave differently. Each company organization, carry out its activities based on the defined structure, uh, then comes with the culture. And that culture looks at what kind of leadership is put in place, the people, the values that are there, the workplace environment, the technology being used, what kind of motivation is expected, and what kind of tools and methodologies are used in that workplace. And that could define a number of or types of culture where, for example, if you have a culture that is more inward and doesn't really look at the market but look at themselves and want to have some stability within, these are more hierarchical. They're more with some level of hierarchy, and they favor structure and control, coordination and efficiency. Stability is more important, timeliness and processes. But if they still are a company that has a focus inward, but are more flexible with their structure, then they value cohesion. This is more like a clan, so they're within themselves. They look at internally, but they have a structure that allows people to be more flexible and create a bit more of social networking in a way that, depending on the kind of person you are, you can fit more in a clan than in a hierarchy organization. And if you go to organizations that are more looking outwards to the market, satisfying people and things, but if they want to also have some stability, so they are more a kind of market organization where they are result oriented, and so they are stable, they don't deviate, but they give you results, they get the job done, they value competition and achieve, and are customer oriented. And if they are one which allows some flexibility but still looks outside towards the market, then they're really dynamic, entrepreneurial. This is what we call the ad hocracy type of structure. And they are very innovative and things like that. And that's why you see several types of organization operate differently depending on how much focus they have internally or externally, depending on what they want to satisfy, uh, together with what kind of structure they want to put in place, whether a stable one where they use a lot of processes or something that allows them to be more flexible. So this is how you look at organizational structure and culture. Structure affects culture, and culture also affects the structure. And you have to look at your own organization as a project manager or where you work, even as an engineer, anybody, to see what kind of structure do we have and what kind of culture do they exhibit and how they relate. And this helps you a lot to manage not just projects, but other things around you. Thank you, and we will continue in the next video.